Welcome back to the Food on Demand podcast, where we dish up insights on the future of food relating to off-premises operations and the overall digital dining experience. I'm Bernadette Heyer, Managing Editor.
And I'm Hans Zammerman, Food Service and Technology Reporter. Food on Demand is your exclusive source covering the ongoing transformation of how consumers discover, shop, order, and consume food in a digital age.
Now, we have a really great interview today with Andrew Glantz, CEO and founder of GiftAMeal. But before we get into that, it's time for our quick bites, where we share what's been on our plate and what we've been covering recently. So Hans, take it away.
Bernadette, this week I have an article unpacking food delivery taxes across the country, their popularity with the public, their potential impact on delivery platforms, and ultimately a glimpse into the future of this type of legislation. And according to recent polling from the Chamber of Progress, voters in Colorado and Minnesota, which are the two states that have this kind of tax, have pushed back and provided some broad opposition to delivery taxes. So it'll be very cool to see how this goes forward, and I think it will certainly transform the food delivery industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So be sure to check that article out. This week, I covered Domino's latest earnings call, and the pizza brand is managing to grow even as the broader pizza category softens and competitors report declining sales. In Q4 2025, the company posted positive same-store sales growth, and CEO Russell Weiner said there's still room to potentially double retail sales over time. And he credits this to a mix of value promotions and menu innovation, like bringing back the $9.99 single topping deal and adding Parmesan stuffed crust to the permanent menu as key drivers. The reason I'm diving into this is because it's interesting to watch the pizza category as we follow the food delivery space and, how these brands are winning or what they could be doing to improve. What stood out to me is that carryout is outperforming delivery, not just at Domino's, but across the broader pizza category. So very interesting to keep an eye on carryout versus delivery. That's our quick bites, and now we'll get into our interview.
So GiftAMeal is a platform where customers take photos of or with their food and drinks at participating restaurants. And then for every photo taken, those brands donate at least one meal to people facing food insecurity through food banks in 46 states. And the platform has over 1,000 restaurant partners, including chains like Chick-fil-A and Kolache Factory, and has provided more than 2.8 million total meals so far. So Andrew, I've read that you started this mission in 2015 after gaining the inspiration for this kind of app in college. So can you tell me about the feelings that run through your mind when you hear those numbers of, 2.8 million meals so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild to think about. I mean, the number that stood out was 2015 because that was a long time ago that I had this original idea. But yeah, I mean, we're getting closer to 3 million meals donated to those in need across 165 different food banks in 46 states. And I think it's easy to get lost in the numbers. But then I think when stepping back and remembering that each of these meals is helping an actual person is something that's really important to reflect on, and the impact that a meal can have for somebody's life for a child in terms of their development, ability to pay attention in school, ability to be healthy and grow, for somebody that has had a tough time and is looking for a job and they need to be able to be fed in order to do well in an interview, or for an older adult or a veteran. There's so many people that really need the support. And so I think stepping back and thinking about the impact in terms of that number is really quite overwhelming. And it's something I'm really proud of when we look at the impact. But I think just kind of focusing in on those individual stories is also something that makes me feel really proud of what we do.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to dive more into the program and how restaurants can get involved, but I'd love to take back to 2015 and have you kind of tell us how you got the idea, how it got started. I know you have kind of an interesting story kind of on the ground there.
So I always like to support brands that give back, and I would choose to support socially conscious brands. And I noticed in the restaurant industry, there were a lot of financially driven incentives like coupons and discounts, but not a lot that was really building a sense of an emotional connection with the brand. There were like one-off benefit nights and things, but nothing that was really involving the guest in a give back experience in a free and fun way. And so I pulled from a Tom Shoes, Warby Parker, buy one, give one model, the existing network of food banks and the trend of people posting photos of food on social media. And I combined it together into one where a guest can simply snap a photo in order to help provide a meal to someone in need through a local food bank. And so I put my savings into it and then hired an app development company to build the very first version of GiftAMeal. Walked up and down the street in the snow between 2 and 4:30 p.m. to mom and pop restaurants since I didn't have a car yet, and just tried to pitch the owners and managers on GiftAMeal, get some early adopters, and really grow it from there.
And restaurants, they operate on notoriously tight margins, so I'm sure that those were some pretty difficult conversations for you, especially at first. How did you convince them that this would add value to their brand?
It was really hard when we had no proof in the early stages. I mean, no one wants to be the first guinea pig to test something out. And like you said, restaurants have tight margins, but also even more importantly, in those early stages, they were just busy. And it just even having like the mental bandwidth to add something else onto their plate was a challenge. And so it was really kind of more asking for advice in those early days to the restaurants. And there's the saying, when you ask for advice, you get money. And when you ask for money, you get advice type of thing. And I found that the restaurants that gave us advice in those early days were really bought into the success of GiftAMeal because then they were really believers in the concept. Because if we succeeded, it was partly due to their advice. And a lot of those restaurants ended up being the first early adopters for GiftAMeal. And then they saw some good results and we were able to get some positive testimonials from them. And then we could approach other restaurants in the neighborhood and say, hey, Three Kings Public House down the street says these really good things, or Anthony Knows Taverna says these really good things, and you should join us too. And so it was challenging in those early days, especially before we could really prove out the value. Later on, we were able to have more quantified case studies in terms of an average boost to visit frequency of 39%, tip size of 32%, check size of 20%, guest sentiment scores 2/3 of a star higher for guests using GiftAMeal, plus the social media publicity that restaurants would get. But we didn't have those metrics in the early days. So it was a lot of people just believing in us for the social impact mission and because they could see that Gen Z and millennials want to support brands that give back, qualitatively speaking.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's absolutely what, I want to talk about as well, which is community engagement marketing and the benefits that restaurants get from, connecting with the community.
Mhm.
Um, can you tell me a bit about that? But also, you mentioned how busy restaurants are. And so I know Gift a Meal really does make it easy for the onboarding and the implementation of the program. If you can dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, restaurants, like you said, are busy. And so any program, whether it's a community engagement program or anything else, needs to not add anything extra to staff's plate. It needs to be something additive for the staff as well. And so with Gift a Meal, we built it out in a way that staff don't need to do one thing in order for Gift a Meal to operate. For the guests to participate, they can just see a table tent or other signage at the restaurant, scan the QR code, snap a photo of their food, drink, or friends, and then we handle the donations to the food banks from there. The food that's donated is not from the restaurant. It is food that's already donated to the food banks by supermarkets, food drives, food distributors, stored in their big distribution facilities. And then our monetary donations help fund the distribution of that food from those big facilities to the hundreds of neighborhood pantries where those in need can access it. So each of these food banks has a meal metric of every dollar can distribute approximately 4 meals to those in need, just paying that distribution cost of the food that's already donated. And so it's all strictly monetary. So we made it zero effort for the staff. And then it's something that they can really feel good about too. Because one of the stats I mentioned earlier, 32% boost in tip size isn't too bad to try to get the customers to be happier with the brand and feeling good about supporting a brand that gives back and then supporting those staff members in return. And people also want to work at a brand that gives back to their community. And with Gift a Meal, it's all hyper local. So even if it's a chain restaurant like Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken across 130 locations, they're all on Gift a Meal, but each store is matched to a local food bank that serves the community that they're in. So the staff and those customers can feel like it's a really meaningful and relevant social impact for them.
Did you expect those kind of metrics, like increased visit frequency and guest sentiment when you first started, or was that just like a happy side effect that happened to, come about?
Well, I knew that I liked to support brands that give back, and I would actively choose a brand that gave back over one that didn't. There were a couple different consumer culture reports. Like 5WPR did a consumer culture report where they found that 84% of Gen Z would be more likely to support a brand that gives back over one that doesn't. Fuse Marketing saw that for millennials, 71% said that they would pay more for a product if they knew that some of the proceeds would go to support a cause. And 83% of millennials said it was important for the companies they buy from to align with their values. So it's one thing to go from these surveys at the macro level. It's another thing to actually see it in payment data. So yes, I had the hypothesis that people would want to be able to support these brands that are giving back and everything. But I didn't know for sure that it would lead to that boost in revenue for the business. And in order for GiftAMeal to really survive and thrive, we had to show this was going to make a meaningful social impact, and it was also going to make a meaningful business impact, since restaurants do have tight budgets and it needs to meet both of those criteria.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely, something I see in this space too. Gen Z is definitely very aware of, the brands they support and any thing they're doing. So I think that's great. Going back to the technology part, it obviously plays a really big role in this, from the app to the QR code scanning. What tech partners, if you want to mention, have you worked with, or, what kind of processes have you gone through kind of in the building and implementation of the tech side?
So first starting on our internal tech, and then I'll touch on tech partners.
Yeah.
For the internal tech, I started GiftAMeal as a fully fleshed out mobile app, almost like a socially conscious Yelp, where you could discover socially conscious restaurants, take the photo to gift meals, see how many meals you've provided, your friends, follow each other, have your GiftAMeal profile. And that's all well and good, but I found that sometimes there was friction created of downloading another app onto your phone. And so then we've largely pivoted to a new appless technology where a guest can just scan the QR code. It opens GiftAMeal on their phone. They can go through the snapping the photo process and posting it within 15 seconds. And there's no app download or account creation required. So it's really easy for the guest to get that quick customer engagement feel good experience, which is what GiftAMeal is all about. And then we have the APIs built out with social media networks where they can post on their personal social media, and we give an extra meal for each platform they share on, since then they're promoting the restaurant to friends in a positive way. That technology also allowed us to white label it in terms of putting GiftAMeal in the brand identity of the restaurant. Because at the end of the day, we want the guest to be giving the restaurant credit for this program because we want them to feel good about choosing to support that restaurant and want to have that boost in loyalty and emotional connection. And they just think GiftAMeal is the restaurant's own program. And so that was something that was really important for us, is to have the frictionless appless experience along with the branded colors. Then we were able to go one step further and integrate the GiftAMeal experience within some external tech partners, like for instance, with Big Colony under Plain Air, they built Lee's Chicken's mobile app. They added a GiftAMeal button within that app. We've also had integrations with Lunchbox and Thanks and Incentivio and Olo and some of these other food tech companies, so that GiftAMeal could be integrated into the different points of the customer experience wherever it makes sense for that customer, whether it's in their own mobile app and loyalty programs, or whether it's at the end of the online ordering experience. So that way there could be that clear call to action that fits in that restaurant's customer flow.
And I remember first being introduced to QR codes just over a decade ago, and at the time it was mind-blowing, and now it's very commonplace. Are QR codes something that GiftAMeal is, committed to for the foreseeable future, or are there alternatives for taking these photos and posting them through the app?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, we've tested out some other types of technology, like the kind of like tap your phone to launch something, and we found that it wasn't as reliable. And so we stuck with the QR codes for now. So the QR codes are great. It also is something that we're conscious of. Your restaurant might not want to have 10 different QR codes on the restaurant. So, it's great if we could explore other ways outside or in addition to the QR code. For instance, like the gift meal button within a restaurant's own mobile app, or if they could be texted something where they could open a gift meal from a text message on their phone. But the QR code does just make it really easy as well. And sometimes a brand, if they don't want to have another table tent out, they'll put gift meal on the packaging or on a sticker or on the menu or something like that. So there's ways to do it that don't lead to QR codes everywhere.
Yeah. Well, we spoke a lot about, what's been working, how you work with restaurants, the impact in the community. What's next for GiftAMeal? Anything you're excited about, you're working on, or anything we haven't mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, we're in 46 states now. Let's get to all 50. And 2.85 million meals, I believe, that we're at now. I'll give you the real-time update. We're at 2,882,353 meals. And so we're getting closer and closer to 3 million meals. And so we're really excited to reach that milestone soon and just expand the impact that we can reach to every community across the country. And I think that comes with working with different types of restaurants and different size brands. For instance, we've partnered up with Haagen-Dazs shops recently, so that's great to see kind of dessert brands. And then we also partner up with Scooter's Coffee, so kind of the drive-through coffee shop brands. And so we really work with everything, everybody from food truck to quick service, fast casual, casual dining, fine dining, all different types, ghost kitchens. So it's really cool to see the different types of brands we can work with and how we can continue to grow our partnership ecosystem so we can grow our impact.
Getting those brands on board is obviously a huge part, of the program there for you guys. But of course, getting users to be involved and committed to using GiftAMeal is also huge. What are some of the tactics that you guys have used to keep users posting and using GiftAMeal consistently?
Yeah, I mean, it really hasn't been too much of an issue for us, and we've tried to make it as frictionless as possible for the guest. Really engaging at the end of the gift and meal experience. It shows an impact story with some confetti and everything that shows somebody that's actually been helped through the program. It makes the guest feel good. It's free for them. They can post about it on their social media, so then they look good to all their friends for making an impact and everything. And so we found that the guest retention side of things hasn't been too much of an issue. It's really just about having the restaurants get on board and have the restaurants take advantage of promoting it to their customers. And we have some restaurants that do a really good job of that, like Pepper Jack's does Thankful Thursdays, where every Thursday they'll post some of the gift and meal user-generated content on their social media of these happy customers that have taken photos on gift and meal, and they thank those customers for making the impact. So that's something that's really cool to see the restaurants take advantage of that. And we give restaurants access to all that user-generated content in their gift and meal dashboard. So they have a giant library of user-generated photos that they can pull from. And so I think just finding the ways to create those connections with the customer is really important. And that'll naturally continue to boost that user retention, which also boosts the customer lifetime value of the customer at the restaurant, because then they're going to keep on coming back.
Yeah. And what a great way for marketing for the restaurant too, as you already talked about, that promotion and guest input is vital.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, we did address how important it is, to address food insecurity. Anything you want to mention on that and, what you're seeing in the space? Obviously, it hasn't gotten better, and it's a very important issue.
Yeah.
Just, anything you want to mention about your mission?
Yeah, I mean, over 40 million Americans face daily food insecurity. About 1 in 6 kids in America don't know where they're going to find their next meal. And so, here at Gift a Meal, we see those as big problems to tackle, but we want to focus on, okay, what is in our control of what we're able to do to make that incremental impact on one more life at a time. And so that idea of one photo, one meal, multiplying it by sharing on social media to more meals is something that's really important to focus on the good that we can do and not be overwhelmed by the bad that happens in the world. And so I think that, the hunger problem's there, it's existing. Gift and meal itself isn't going to solve the entirety of the hunger problem, but the dent that we can put in the hunger problem is real. And that's something that by itself is a success because of the impact it can have on those individual people's lives. And I also hope to just through Gift a Meal, we're able to raise more awareness for these food banks. So then people can make donations to them and volunteer and support these food banks in other ways that are a part of their communities. And so I think that that's something that's really important to us as well, and just to me personally.
Well, building on that mission there, but also kind of peeking into your mind as a social entrepreneur here, has there ever been any pressure to monetize Gift a Meal or change the structure in a way that you felt would compromise the mission, even if it expanded the users and the brand partners?
That's a good question. So, I mean, Gift a Meal is a for-profit social venture. We're effectively a cause marketing platform for restaurants. I'm a big proponent of the idea of a profits with a purpose business model. So, finding a way to align the incentives of for-profits and nonprofits in order to achieve both of those objectives. Gift a Meal itself, we operate around break even as a company, and we stay lean in everything. But, as a for-profit company, we're donating about a third of our revenue to support local food banks. So that's something that we're really proud of. And that's something that we found to be sustainable. As we continue to grow, we're able to make a larger impact. And from the profitability angle, it's just a numbers game in terms of more restaurants joining, the more our business side can grow, but then it also, the impact side scales up with it. So I think building out that sustainable business model was important in order to answer those types of questions. So we never really felt any pressure to choose one or the other because both are really aligned.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything about GiftAMeal, Andrew. Before we wrap up, we have a few fun questions to ask at the
Yeah.
end, but I did want to make sure we covered everything you wanted to touch base on before we go to our Did You Leave Room for Dessert section.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would say, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. The only other thing I would say is that if there's anybody that's listening that's in the restaurant industry and works at a brand, or a favorite restaurant that you think would be a good fit for GiftAMeal, you can go to giftameal.com/partner to learn more. We have a great 1-minute video explainer at the top, and you can book a demo as well. And I'd be happy to personally walk you through it. You can also reach out to me at andrew@giftameal.com, and I would love to chat. But yeah, let's go into the fun questions.
Awesome.
Great, thank you.
And I can confirm from a user perspective, because I downloaded the app, and doing some preparation for this interview, and it's extremely simple to use. And I definitely feel motivated to go out and eat some food from some of my favorite restaurants. And I never need more of an excuse to do that. So I appreciate it.
There we go.
So we have 3 lightning round questions for you. So I'll start with, what is your best tip for capturing the best angle of your meal when it comes to food photography?
I think the kind of like 45-degree angle is always a good one. I think the lighting is also important. And I mean, I think it's also just fun to take pictures with friends with food as well. Like some of my favorite photos on GiftAMeal are the selfies that we get too. So kind of snapping that selfie with your burger or something is always a fun one as well.
I love it. Well, who would be your dream celebrity to post on a photo through GiftAMeal?
Well, that's a good one. I mean, I think that there's like the first one that came to mind was like Danny Meyer. I think that there's the like the restaurant industry celebrities, if you will. I mean, I think that I mean, if Taylor Swift posted a gift to meal
Yes.
photo, like that would be, I'm trying to think of like which would be the biggest blow up moment for gift to meal. I can't think of anybody bigger on with a bigger following.
Get the
So,
Swifties on board.
yeah, exactly. I mean, if we had a Swifties behind gift-a-meal, who
Yeah.
knows how many meals we'd be gifting?
Yeah.
And you mentioned Tom's earlier, but are there any other examples of social entrepreneurship that you find particularly inspiring?
Yeah, I think there's a number of them, like Bombas as well. I think that also with social entrepreneurship, there's a wide spectrum of ways businesses can do good. It's not just the buy one, give one model of gift a meal, but businesses that are making donations to good causes, that are using socially responsible practices in terms of the way they treat their employees, sustainable packaging, the way that they build things out, reducing food waste. Like Copia is a really great organization in the restaurant industry that helps reduce food waste and gets the restaurants a tax incentive for getting that food waste donated. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of ways that businesses can give back. It doesn't have to be, as extreme as the buy one, give one model of gift a meal. And I think there's a lot of businesses that are doing a lot of good. Or
Great.
even just like supporting their like local kids sports teams and doing volunteer events with their staff or featuring local artists in their stores and stuff. There's a lot of different cool people businesses I've seen.
Andrew, you've survived our lightning round and the interview as a whole. We really appreciate you joining us today and telling us a little bit more about GiftAMeal.
Yeah, thanks for your interest in our story and letting me share it.
Thank you so much.
I hope that you enjoyed that interview as much as we did. We appreciate you guys watching this week, and we'll be back in another 2 weeks with another Food on Demand podcast. Feel free to reach out with any feedback or suggestions to info@foodondemand.com.
Thank you.